Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to be working a little bit more, a little slower, working with our breath, coming back and doing a little turtle breath, crocodile breath and turtle breath work. So this is going to be a slow class, goal of like really working into our breathing apparatus, trying to get as much expansion and contraction with that breath, breathing out and breathing all the way down into the pelvic floor. Anytime we're doing breath work, especially deep levels of breath work, I want to be reminded that we're working with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which means working with the systems of fight or flight and rest and restore. So deep breath work can send us into either of those directions. If you find that you are prone to being anxious, anxiety, fear, then I want to be cautious of tripping into those areas. It's kind of an easy thing to do that we kick up an emotional process doing some deep breath work. I don't think that's a negative thing, but I do want to be cautious of it. I actually look at if we kick up an emotional process, that is a beneficial thing because it means we can work through, practice our working through emotional process. When it gets kicked up, that can be a positive thing. Working on going from states of fight or flight, being able to navigate back into rest and restore. So if you do find that getting into that deep level of breath work is kicking up that stuff, then it's okay to back off, slow down, don't feel like you have to keep up with the class. And with just like every other class, pay attention to the rules of pain. I don't want to do any movements that take us into a pain level of a 3 or above on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being not painful, 10 being excruciating. Level 3 is that point in which we're doing a movement and it starts to show up on our face and we make that pirate look. It means we're triggering pain at a spinal cord level, and that's going too far. I want to back off if we're getting to that point. So with all that, let's get started. We're going to start on our back, with our feet up on a chair. If you do not have a chair, you can use a wall. Just sit your butt up fairly close to the wall so that you can rest your feet up on the wall. We're going to make our big C shapes with our hands. We're starting with our crocodile breath, and then we're going to work into turtle breath. So crocodile breath, thumbs are going into the low back musculature. I want hands below the rib cage and above the hip bone in that nice meaty section of the abdominal wall. Index fingers are wrapping around. So I want the thumbs to be able to touch and feel a little bit of the low back musculature. The index fingers are able to feel a little bit of the abdominal musculature on your belly, and the palms are pressing into the side body. We're going to create some resistance with our hand in order to feel that expansion out and away of our breath. So I want to think of that abdominal wall like a balloon. With each inhale, we're expanding out and away. I want that breath to move forward into the belly, back into the low back area, and out through the side body. And we'll take a good 5-6 breaths. And with each inhale, we're seeing if we can expand the balloon a little bit wider, a little bit larger. On the exhale, we're drawing our navel all the way up and into our spine. Let your hands squeeze down a little bit to create more resistance for you to inflate up into. As you're taking your nice breaths in and out, notice shoulders. I want to keep them nice and soft and relaxed. I want to watch out for shoulders tensing up and lifting up off the floor. And as we start to feel that abdominal wall inflate, we're now going to move to turtle breath. We're going to let our knees open up so that they are shoulder width apart. Feet are going to stay touching. Heels and the ball of the foot are still connected. So we're in a little bit of a frog position with our legs. Hands are going to go to knees, and we're going to push and extend our elbows, keeping them actively straight. At the same time, we are pulling our knees in to create tension through our abdominal core. So I want to have good push and good pull, continuing to feel the shoulder blades soft on the floor. I don't want those shoulders and the head to come up. If you need a bolster for your head so that you can stay relaxed instead of feeling that tension of lifting up, that is fine. That will actually be beneficial. So once we have that tension, pushing and pulling at the same time, we're coming back into that crocodile breath. Feel that expansion of the abdominal wall. On the inhale, on the exhale, draw that navel all the way in like you're trying to press your spine into the floor. And on the next inhale, as we inhale, I want to start to allow that breath to move down into the pelvic bowl, down into the pelvis. On the exhale, as we draw our navel in, we're going to add in a light kegel, like you're holding in pee, holding in poo, holding in a fart. And then on the inhale, we're going to let that breath move into the pelvic floor and kind of open up that kegel, feel it stretch if you feel mild stretch. And then exhale, feel that light squeeze of the pelvic floor as you draw your navel into the spine. We'll get 5 to 6 breaths. And then we're going to relax our hands. We're going to slowly come up to a seated position. We can move our chair out of the way. Keep it close by. We'll come back at the end of the class and we're going to do another round of that breath. We're now going to come into our shin box position. I'm in my left side shin box. I'm bringing my left palm down to the floor. I want to spiral that elbow out and away. Feel the shoulder blade packed down and back, and a nice tall lifted chest. And we're still working our breath from this position. And I very specifically want to focus on the side of our breath that our hand is grounded to the floor. So my left side, I'm focusing on that left side body. We can use our opposite hand to kind of palpate that side of the body, but we're going to breathe in, feeling that same crocodile breath, expanding out, and then on the exhale, drawing navel into the spine. Based on our position, this opposite side is going to be a lot harder to breathe into. So this is the side where that breath is naturally going to want to move into. As you feel that breath inhale, you can allow your spine to kind of soften and curve into it. On the exhale, as we draw navel into the spine, I want to feel that spine get nice and tall. So we're inhaling, filling up that side body space, feeling it go wide out to the side. And then on the exhale, navel to spine as we get nice and tall. As we start to sink that breath in, we're going to now add in our back hip. As we inhale into that side body space, we're allowing that back hip to drop down and see if it can touch the floor. So I'm still feeling that breath here, and my back hip is trying to touch the floor. On the exhale, we're going to lift that hip up, reaching it forward. It's going to move over the top. It has to come off the floor, and we're going to scoop that tailbone forward, trying to get a nice extended hip position on our exhale. Inhale, letting the hips soften as we fill up that side body space. Exhale as we scoop, See if you can feel that stretch on the front of the hip, nice and tall through the spine. Inhale gets us to soften. Exhale, nice lift. Once we get about 5 breaths on that side, we're going to switch and come to the other side. Grounding palm, spiraling elbow, packed shoulder, focusing on the breath first. Can we feel that breath move into that side body space, allowing the spine to soften and round a little bit towards the floor? Exhale, we're drawing the navel into the spine as we feel our spine get nice and tall again. Again, for 5 breaths. See how much can you feel that expansion into the side body space. Really good assessment point here is, are you able to breathe into one side body easier than the other? My right side, it's a bigger stretch. There's more tension, especially in the low back area. So I feel a bigger stretch with that inhale, and then exhale, drawing navel in, getting nice and tall. And now we're going to add in that back hip, just like we did on the other side. As we breathe into that side body space, we're allowing that back hip to drop to see if it can touch the floor. On the exhale, we're lifting it off the floor and scooping forward, seeing if we can feel that stretch on the front of the hip as we exhale and draw that navel in. Inhale takes us into that side body as the hip drops down to the floor. Exhale, scoop as you get nice and tall. How does that back hip feel compared to the other side? Since my right side is tight with my breath, my left hip is also tight in this scoop. And this is a common pattern for me based on injury history. After 5 breaths, we're then going to slowly move to the other side. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Locking in that elbow, spiraling it out, packed shoulder. Inhale, we're dropping that back hip. Exhale, and breathing into that side body. Exhale, lift the hip, scoop as we draw the navel in. And we're going to do 3 to 5 reps, and then we're going to add another layer to this. Usually going back in the second time around with a movement, you'll feel a little bit more mobility. You'll feel it open up a little bit more. On this next inhale, as you fill up that side body, as you exhale, scoop, we're going to add in our reach and rotation. Imagine that you got a piece of bread in your exhale as you slowly reach. Inhale brings us all the way back, dropping that back hip and breathing into that side body, allowing the spine to kind of soften into it. Exhale gets you tall as you draw that navel in, scoop, and then nice reach with rotation. I want to make sure that back hip gets scooped and locked in before we apply that rotation. Notice how slow we have to move in order to get that full inhale, full exhale, and kind of sync all these movements together. After 5, we can slowly come to the other side. Again, we're going to start with just that breath and back hip. Make sure that our elbows spiraled out, shoulders packed, sternum tall. Inhale, feeling that back hip drop, breathing into that side body space. Exhale, navel to spine as we scoop at the tailbone. Second time around, this feels a little bit more mobile. I feel a little easier getting breath into the side body space, and I feel a little bit more mobile in this back hip. After 3 to 5 on your next inhale, as you exhale, scoop, lock it in, and then sharing our bread. Nice reach with rotation. How does this side rotation feel compared to the other side? Is it tighter, more restricted? Do you feel it stretch more at the hip once we add this reach, or do you feel it more in the upper back? Those are all relevant assessment points that are going to be helpful in a consultation with me. It gives me a better idea of how your body is organizing movement and what areas we want to work on. Once we get through 5 reps, we're going to go back to the other side. Now we're going to bring that hand off the floor. We're bringing it all the way across. I want forearm flush with the ceiling. We're still going to be breathing into that same side body. As I bring that arm up, this is still closing my right side. So I'm not going to be able to breathe as well into this side, but I'm nice and opened up over on my left side. So I want to continue to breathe out into that side body space as breathing into that side body space. On the exhale, we're still drawing navel into the spine. As we inhale, we're still letting that back hip drop to the floor, and with our exhale, we're continuing to scoop forward. I want to get a few breaths where we're just working on filling up that side space on the inhale with the hip dropping. Exhale, drawing navel in as we lift and scoop that back hip, feeling that stretch on the front of that back hip. Once we feel that pretty well synced up, on the next inhale, as you exhale and scoop, we're going to lift through the elbow as we reach down through the same side hip, like you're trying to touch the ceiling with your elbow as you're scooping that back pelvis. Inhale, that pelvis drops as we fill in that side body space with air. Exhale, drawing navel to spine as we scoop, and then reaching down and up through the opposite side. This is very cue heavy. There's a lot going on here. If you're this the first time or even the 10th time that you're doing this movement, you may find it's really difficult to organize all of these things at the same time. That's normal. It takes time to really learn the neurology of this movement. So if you're feeling frustrated with trying to keep up, please understand that's normal and just keep working on it. Nice inhale, filling up that side body. Exhale, scoop, and nice and long. And then we'll switch over to the other side. Again, taking that hand that was on the floor, bringing it up. Forearm is flush with the ceiling. We're inhaling, letting that back hip drop as we're filling into that side body space. Now, by lifting up this elbow, I really feel that side tension in my right side that was there earlier. So this again is nice, tense area that's kind of restricted at the level of my breath. So inhale, I can really feel that stretch of the inhale. Exhale, drawing navel in as we're scooping that back hip. I want to sink in the lower body part first. Breathing in, letting that inflate out to the side. Hip drops. Exhale, navel to spine as our spine gets tall and scooping that back pelvis. After we do 3 to 5, getting the breath synced in, then we can add reaching down through the opposite hip, reaching up through that elbow. This can be as difficult and challenging as this particular movement and position is. I find it to be one of the more valuable and almost magical movements. I've resolved knee pain, I've resolved breathing issues, pelvic floor issues, shoulder issues through this particular position. So it's kind of subtle, difficult, subtle, but very, very powerful. Once we get through 5, we're switching back to the other side, and now we're going to get into our folds. I want to use that shin as our arrow, reaching both hands evenly. I want to keep the shoulders square with the hands. So as we reach, we're reaching forward with both hands. I don't want one hand reaching further than the other. Inhale, we're coming all the way back up. And actually before, I also want to continue, we're going to continue to have this back hip moving. So let me back up just a little bit. So on our inhale, at the top, we're letting that back hip drop. On the exhale, we're drawing navel in as we scoop it forward. And then we're seeing how far can we reach both hands, keeping our shoulders square with the chest. Inhale brings it all the way back up, letting that back hip drop. We can still kind of breathe into that side body space. Sorry, other side. Exhale, scoop, gets the spine tall as we reach forward. On the 5th breath, as we exhale, we're going to reach, and I kind of want to find light tension of our reach, not major tension, and I want to stay here. And from here, we're going to breathe in and see if we can bring that breath into our low back space. So as my hands kind of stay forward, I'm breathing into this low back, and I'm feeling that back round a little bit as I bring breath into that space. You can almost feel that low back kind of lift. On the exhale, as you draw navel in, you can lightly reach a little further. Inhale into that back space. Exhale a little bit further. We're doing this for 3 to 5 breaths. After 3 to 5, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. So again, shin is square with shoulders. Inhale, allowing that back hip to drop as we continue to breathe into this side body space. Exhale, scoops the back hip as we draw that navel in, and then reaching both hands evenly through the shin. Inhale, bringing it all the way back up, allowing that hip to drop, reaching towards the floor. Feel into that side body space. Again, this right side, noticeably tenser. It's not like a massive stretch, but it's noticeable. I want to notice the ways in which the right side of the body feels different than the left side of the body. Super, super important, developing that level of sensitivity of what is actually happening in our body when we move. With each one, we're seeing if we can reach just a little bit further. We're doing this for 5 reps. And on the 5th one, as we exhale, drawing navel in and reach, we're going to reach to light tension, not heavy tension. I don't want this to feel massive. And this is where we're going to then breathe in, holding this position, breathing into that low back space. Can you feel that breath move into the low back where it lifts that low back just a little bit? On the exhale, drawing navel in, we're seeing if we can reach our hands a little further. And we're doing this for 3 to 5 breaths. And then we're going to go all the way across to the other side. At this point, I want to start working back and forth with our shin box. Nice Exhale, scooping that back hip first, locking it in, then nice reach. Inhale as we bring it all the way back up. Then we'll take another exhale to inhale to transition to the other side, where we're ready to exhale, scooping that back hip forward and reaching. Inhale as we come all the way up. Exhale as we transition across with another inhale, followed into our nice fold. And as we're going back and forth, moving as slow as our breath, once we do about 3 to 5 times back and forth, we're going to start to open up our shin box. Letting that back knee slide open just a little bit more. At this point, I'm less concerned about staying flush with the shin, keeping square with the shin. And I'm just exploring our fold, seeing how far can we reach without going into pain. Nice inhale to exhale. As we're opening up that back hip, we're kind of exposing our hips to different levels of mobility. So I want to notice, how does that change right side to left side? How easy is this on one side? Tight, restriction, difficulty bringing in breath. How far can we fold? And how is that different from the other side? Is one side tighter and more restricted, especially as we start to open up that back hip? And do you feel the tightness in the hip, that back hip, or do you feel it in the front hip? Or do you feel it in your low back or even up into your shoulders? And this is such a nice, simple flow. We can do 10 up to 20 reps on each side. With each one, we're slowly opening up that back leg a little bit more, getting closer and closer to what we would consider a yoga class pigeon pose. Although I'm not overly concerned about getting into that pigeon pose, especially if it's not available. If it's painful, if it's too tight and restricted, I want to move as close as we can to it without forcing it. And the more we work right up to the edge of that end range, practicing this daily, you'll find that you slowly get more and more range back. Unless there's some structural things that are preventing you from achieving that range, you should be able to slowly regain a decent amount of that range of motion. And any improvement of range of motion, in my book, is the most important quality of our mobility. Achieving specific poses is the least important. Getting improvement is the most important. So I'm less concerned about getting to that end range. I'm more concerned with any kind of progress we have towards it. All right, we are now going to switch positions, and we're going to get into our inverted sit. So my feet are nice, sitting in front of me, bent leg. Palms are coming down, grounded near the hips, as close to the hips as possible. If you need to lean back a little bit, that's okay, but I want the hands as close to the hips as you possibly can with the palms grounded down. From here, we're going to play with spirals through the elbows, spiraling the elbows in and out. So this is a better position here. So as I'm grounded, elbows spiraling in, rounds the shoulders forward, gets me nice and rounded in the upper back. We can also allow that pelvis to scoop. This position, I am exhaling. Then we can spiral the elbows out, feeling that lift the spine. Notice that the shoulders naturally want to move down the upper back like they're moving towards your hips. We are inhaling into this position. Exhale, spirals in, pelvis scoops. Feel that nice rounding in the upper back and lower back. Inhale, opens up the chest. Feel the shoulder blades move down the back, getting us nice and tall. With each one, see if you can inhale a little bit more as we continue to open up and spiral. Can you feel that nice opening stretch across the top of the chest with that inhale? On our exhale, as we round our back, can you feel that nice stretch in between the shoulder blades and the spine? On the next inhale, as we get tall, I want to stay tall. And we're going to work on some breath just in this position. If you want to cross legs at this point, that's fine. I'm grounded down, elbows are spiraled out, and we're maintaining that position. And we're going to breathe into this upper chest area. I want to see if we can get some breath up into around the clavicles and into the lower neck. So on our inhale, we're continuing to feel that crocodile breath opening up through the midsection, but I'm also bringing that breath up into the chest. What will help with that is if you continue to externally spiral those elbows as you inhale. So actively turn those elbows out and away while you're pressing down into the floor on your inhale, and then on our exhale, we're drawing the navel in, but we're maintaining this position with our shoulders. So we're not allowing the shoulders to round. We're not spiraling the elbows inward. So exhale, feel that navel draw in, and then inhale, filling up the crocodile breath and filling up that upper chest region. And we'll do this for 3 to 5 breaths. Nice and slow, not forceful. When you get to 3 or 5 breaths, on your exhale, we'll allow those elbows to then spiral, coming back to our nice rounded back. We'll go back and forth a couple breaths. Inhale tall, exhale rounded spine. After 3, we're going to exhale and we're going to stay rounded. So we're going to the opposite range of that position. Shoulders are rounded, pelvis is scooped. We're going to inhale, but we're maintaining this position. So this inhale is really going to move into that low back and upper back space. So I want to feel that nice, can you feel that stretch, that breath moving back? Can you feel it opening up low back? Can you feel it lifting up into the upper shoulders? And then as we exhale, we're spiraling into it just a little bit more, scooping into it just a little bit more. Inhale, fill up that space. Exhale, nice scoop and rounding. After 3 to 5 breaths, after your exhale, inhale opens us back up. Exhale rounds us for 3 to 5 more. And on our next inhale, we're going to come back up and we're going to stay at the top again, and we're going to do a little bit of neck mobility. So we're coming back to this spiraled out, nice tall, shoulder blades are packed. And we're going to start with checking our blind spots. And we want to move again. We're staying at the speed of our breath. So exhale as we turn, looking over our shoulder, seeing how far can you get your chin to move over the edge of your shoulder. Inhale brings us back to the center, and then exhale takes us to the other side. I want to do 10 of these on each side. Nice and slow. Got nice slow inhale, nice slow exhale. So it should be like a 3 to 4 count. Moving our head in each direction. It's like 1, 2, 3 as we look over our shoulder, and then 1, 2, 3 as our head comes back to center, and then 1, 2, 3 as we go to the next shoulder. Notice how this feels looking over the right shoulder compared to the left. Is one side easier than the other? My left rotation is tighter and more restricted than my right. And that's something that actually sometimes switches back and forth depending on what's going on in other areas of my body. So this is a good point of assessment to notice on a daily basis. Once we've done 10 on each side, we're going to come to our tilt and lift. So it's facing forward. We're going to let our ear lightly drop. We're not trying to touch our shoulder. So it's a light drop, opposite ear. We're lifting it up as if we're trying to touch the ceiling with our ear. Or you can imagine you have a piece of string attached to your earlobe and it's lifting that ear up. As we lift, we're also pressing down lightly through that same side shoulder. As we exhale. Inhale brings us back to center. Exhale takes us to the other side as we lift and press at the same time. Again, super slow, moving at the rate of our breath so that we can get extra sensitive to how does this feel on the left compared to the right. Notice which side feels tighter, more restricted. Hopefully it's opening up and you're getting a little bit more mobility and ease of range of motion as you go. After 10, we're going to come to our next, which is glide. Moving, keeping our cheekbones moving on the same at the same level. So I want to keep cheekbones at this plane. I don't want the head to tilt or turn as we do this movement. This is a very challenging movement to do. It's helpful to do it in front of a mirror or in front of a camera so you can see whether your head is tilting or turning, because it's very natural for our bodies to kind of compensate and adjust. So we're inhale as we're at the center. We are exhaling as we feel our head glide across. Inhale back to center and exhale as we glide to the other side. What I want to avoid on this is I don't want to move from the shoulders as well as that tilt or turn of the head. We're trying to work a very specific pattern within the neck. We're seeing if we have that movement available, right side compared to left side. Does one side feel tighter, more restricted? Are you able to go as far? This is one where seeing in front of the mirror, you'll be able to notice it's harder moving in one direction than it is in the other direction. As I move to the left, it feels very smooth and easy. When I go to the right, it's it's still pretty smooth, but it gets a little bit more tension as I get to that end range, more so than it is on the left. So all of these little differences one side to the other are very relevant and important. All right, we're now going to switch position. We're going to get into our V-sit. So nice wide legs. We are actively reaching the knees down into the floor, actively pulling the top of the foot back like you're trying to fold it to your shin. Hands are going down behind hips, and we're spiraling those elbows out and away. Nice packed and grounded shoulders. From here, we're working our spirals through our hips, focusing on our knees. We're going to turn our knees inward as if you're trying to touch your kneecaps to the floor. As we exhale, inhale as we bring it back to center, and then exhale as we spiral out in a way like we're trying to touch our kneecaps to the floor on the outside of our legs. Inhale as we come back to center, and exhale as we spiral internal. This may not be a big range of motion pattern, but it's an important one. So I want to notice how far are we able to spiral out and away, right side compared to left side. And how far are we able to spiral internally, right side compared to left side. Does one leg go further in one direction or the other direction, or both? That's going to be incredibly relevant with our gait mechanics, because this is a movement pattern that takes place with every step that we take. And if one leg is able to go further, has more mobility than the other leg, that's going to show up in our gait. It's going to show up as an imbalance one side to the other. So this is an important assessment point to kind of notice where we move well and where we might be struggling a little bit. And the next one, as we externally spiral our knees, we're now going to add in some flossing of the ankles. So as we spiral, we're going to keep externally spiraling as we now point our toes, reaching them away, and then we're going to internally spiral the knees as we pull those toes back up towards our shins, and then spiraling back out. Nice point, and spiraling in. I want to be a little cautious on this movement to watch out for any kind of Charlie horse feel like cramping in the arch of the foot. If you feel that, then stay light with how much you're moving through that foot. If your feet feel pretty good on this, as you point, you can start to clench your toes as you spiral in. And then as you pull, you want to open up and spread those toes as wide as you can, spiraling back out, and then point and flex those toes. Nice grip, like you're trying to grip a towel with your toes. Once we do 5 in one direction, 5 to 10 in one direction, we're going to reverse the direction of our ankle roll. Just changing directions, everything else is the same. You can either just point the toes, or you can flex the toes as well, gripping like you're trying to grip a towel, and then opening up and spreading them as you pull them back. And after 5 to 10 circles in both directions, we're going to come back up to our just active V-sit. Knees actively reaching down, pulling those feet back, and we're going to free our hands from the back, and we're going to get into some light folds. Nice inhale as we're tall. Exhale, we're reaching both hands. Nice and even going forward. Inhale brings us all the way back up, tall spine. Exhale, seeing if we can reach a little bit further. Notice how we're getting some nice length and stretch through the back line of the legs, or also into that low back area. Does it feel different on the right side or the left side? As we get 5 nice slow reps reaching straight forward, we can start to move a little bit side to side. Though when I reach side, I kind of want to keep my hands and my shoulders square together so my hands are reaching evenly as I move from one side, and then same thing to the other side. And this is where we get to start to kind of explore. We can continue to reach further and further out. We can come out and reach straight to the heels, or we can even go past the leg and reach beyond a little bit. So just kind of being exploratory. How does it feel when you reach to the left compared to reaching to the right? Is one side tighter and more restricted? Is it tighter and more restricted in the back of the leg? Is it closer to the calf, back of the knee, or higher up in the hamstring? Or do you feel it more in the low back? Especially as you reach to the left, do you feel it on one side of your low back compared to reaching on to your right? When I reach to my left, I feel it a little bit more in the back, my right side low back, and a little bit in that right side hip and adductor space. When I reach to my right, I feel it in the hamstring of my right and my left anterior hip. Low back feels pretty good. So again, noticing these different patterns that take place with our movement is incredibly helpful. Good. All right, so now we're going to get onto our back. Arms are going to come straight out to the side with the palms facing up. This is where I want to imagine we're laying in a bed of sand and we're trying to make this nice imprint of upper back, shoulders kind of pressing down into the sand, elbows, forearms. I want to feel a good imprint of my upper body in the sand, and I don't want to smear that imprint. I want to keep it really, really solid and engaged. From here, we can lift up our feet so that our hips are a little bit less than 90 degrees. So I want those knees kind of lightly tucked in. This is less than 90 degrees. I don't want the knees extended beyond the hips because that's going to lift the low back off the floor. From here, grounded through our upper body, we're going to slowly lift a hip as we roll over the top of the other hip, keeping the knees together. We're only going as far as we can maintain our perfect imprint in the sand. Inhale, we come back to center. Exhale, roll to the other side. Again, maintaining that imprint. Start small. Start excessively small so that your focus can be on your shoulders. The shoulders are the more important part here, not how far your hips rotate. I want to be able to maintain downward pressure in the shoulders to stay engaged in to the floor so that we don't smear our imprint. I want the perfect imprint of my upper back in the sand when we're done. And as you feel that control through the shoulders, you can slowly rotate and squeeze a little bit more range as long as it does not affect the shoulders. Exhale as you rotate. Inhale as you bring it back to center. And we're continuing to breathe into that crocodile breath. So as you come to center, we're still feeling that, filling up that abdominal wall out in all directions.
And as we exhale, we're drawing our navel into our spine. Notice, how does this feel rotating towards the left compared to rotating towards the right? Are you able to go further in one direction? Do you find it more difficult to maintain your shoulders in one direction? If so, then you probably need to back off a little bit, not go so far, so that you can maintain that shoulder position. But also, the difference between one side and the other is very relevant. Again, important as far as our gait mechanics. So this is a really, really valuable assessment point. We'll do a few more. If you're able to continue to maintain that connection, we can continue to rotate a little bit further, as long as we're not moving into pain and we have good control. As I rotate to my left, I feel that right side low back tension, the same stuff I was feeling in shin box. As I rotate to my right, feels really a lot easier, more manageable. I feel like I got more range of motion. We'll go ahead and let our feet come down to the floor. We're going to let it, legs are going to go straight. We're going to bend one knee and put that foot flat to the floor, and then move that foot out to about 45 degrees from the midline of the body. So bringing that foot flat, I want to move it out 45 degrees. From here, we want to maintain a tripod foot. Ball of the big toe, ball of the pinky toe, and heel. Knee should stay over the heel. That knee turns in, it's going to lift that pinky off the floor. If it turns out, it's going to lift the big toe off the floor. So knee has to stay over that heel. From here, we're going to do some simple, very, very simple glute work. Inhale into our crocodile breath. Exhale, we're drawing navel into the spine, and we're planting downward. We're pushing through our knee into that foot, and we're scooping the tailbone up lightly. I just want to feel this little stretch. We're trying to turn our pelvis into it. Inhale, we're bringing it all the way to the floor. Exhale, scooping into it. The opposite leg should be soft and relaxed. It's not pushing down, it's not lifting up. The opposite hip needs to remain on the floor. As we scoop, we're lifting up one hip, and it is rolling over onto the other hip. The other hip should be on the floor. If you find both hips are coming off the floor, that means you are pushing into that opposite leg, and you have to be able to figure out how to turn that leg off. That leg is doing nothing. It should be soft and relaxed, just sitting in gravity. As we feel this press and scoop, can you feel that light stretch on the top of the hip? Can you start to feel some tightening and contracting in the glutes on the back of the hip? If so, I want to scoop into the stretch more, feel that stretch, and see if that engages that contraction of the glute a little bit more. We're going to do a good 10 reps. I want to feel that nice solid glute activation. And after 10, we can then switch to the other side. Again, foot comes flat to the floor. Make sure both legs, actually start with both legs touching together when they're straight, so that when you bend that knee, you're putting that foot flat, and then you can move that foot out to 45 degrees. From here, inhale, filling up the crocodile. Exhale, drawing navel to spine as you drive down through that knee, feeling that scoop of the pelvis lifting up. Can you feel that stretch through the front of the hip? Inhale, allowing that hip back down. Exhale, scooping into it, Feel that stretch through the front of the hip. Can you start to feel that contraction in the glute? With each one, we're seeing if we can get a little bit more scoop of that pelvis. One thing I want to watch out for is lifting from the chest or the rib cage. If you find that your rib is moving off the floor, the back of your rib cage is rolling off the floor, that means you are lifting from this rib and not scooping at the pelvis. That rib really should kind of be downwardly pressing as that pelvis is scooping up. The more we keep that rib downwardly engaged with it while we scoop, the more you're going to feel a stretch through the front of the hip, and the more you'll feel that contraction in the rear. After 10 of these, we're going to bring both feet flat to the floor. Actually, we're going to bring our chair back out, and we're going to get back into our crocodile and turtle breath. So bringing the chair in, legs are going to go up on the chair. Notice I have a nice, still at less than 90 degrees with my hips. Making our big C shapes with our hands, thumbs in the back, index fingers wrapped around the front, hands are between the rib cage and the hips in that nice meaty section of the abdominals. Inhale, feel that abdominal wall push into the thumbs in the low back. Feel it push into the index fingers in the front, and feel it push out through the palms, through the side. Exhale, drawing navel into the spine as we lightly clench our hands down so that we create resistance for that nice inhale expansion breath. Notice if do you get more breath in now than you did at the beginning of the class? Can you feel that expansion out a little bit easier, especially in the low back and the side body space? After 5 breaths, we're going to bring our hands to our knees. Feet are touching, knees are shoulder width apart. We are pushing and extending our elbows into our knees. At the same time, we are pulling our knees into our hands. Elbows should be straight. Shoulders and head are soft and relaxed. We're breathing into that crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing navel to the spine. Next inhale, want to feel that breath move down into the pelvic bowl. Exhale, we're doing a light Kegel as we draw that navel into the spine. Inhale, feel that breath move down, release the Kegel. Exhale, Kegel as we draw in. Can you start to feel that breath move down and create lengthening and opening in the pelvic bowl, possibly some light stretch? Once we get 5, maybe up to 10 breaths, we can relax our arms, relax our legs, let our shoulders soften to the floor. I want to continue to breathe into our crocodile breath. Nice inhale, light breath, exhale. Continue to draw the navel to the spine. But now I kind of want to bring that breath into the chest, ribs, back up into the shoulders, kind of just scanning the body. Breathing into any tension on the inhale and on the exhale, allowing that tension to rinse off the body onto the floor. Notice if there's any areas that feel dense or restricted in the chest, in the ribs, up into the shoulders. At this point, I want to be really light with our breath, not forceful, but we can just lightly breathe into that tension. And on the exhale, allow that tension to melt. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and very slowly sit back up. I want to pay attention to lightheadedness, dizziness. We've done some very deep breath work, so I want to move very, very slowly from laying down to sitting before we stand back up.